Hello, everybody. Welcome. If you want to get your final snacks and find a seat, there's lots of food, so do not be shy. I want to thank you all for coming tonight to our Gift of Water Part 2 reading. I'm so excited for this, for Lake Appreciation Month. My name is Marty Ackitts. I'm the Adult Programming Coordinator for Peter Waite Public Library. And I have to thank one group that works here at the library that does so much for us, and that is the Friends of Peter Waite Public Library. If you are watching this event tonight on YouTube or after the fact on YouTube, thank the Friends, because they are the ones that pay for the live streaming equipment for us. And we also have to thank John Magnuson and Paul Lemberg and the Cedar Tree Institute for all the snacks tonight. Really wonderful spread, so I'm really, really grateful that they approached me to do this and that we were able to make this happen. So I'm just going to make you aware of a few things that are upcoming still at the library. This week, on Wednesday night, we are going to have a concert on the steps. It will be on the steps. The weather looks like it's going to be fairly clear. And warm, like 72 degrees, and it's going to be the Make Believe Spurs. So if you've not seen Brian, Molly, and Mavis, do yourself a huge favor and show up to see them, because they are fantastic. Thursday night, we're going to be doing our Poet Circle meeting. Marquette Poet Circle meets at 6:30 in the evening upstairs in the Shiras room. From 6:30 to 7:15 or so, we do workshopping poems and talking. And then from 7:15 until 8 o'clock, we have an open mic. And then we have our first movie of the month on Friday at noon right here in the community room, and that is Julian Schnabel's film, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Great. It's a global cinema film, so it's a great French film. If you've not seen that one, again, do yourself a favor. It's beautiful, and you will not be disappointed, and plus there's free popcorn. So you have to come for that. I have all these things on the July flyer back there. Plus, if you're interested in concerts, if you love music, grab one of these. These will tell you all about our concerts on the steps coming up, except for one. I just got confirmation that we had added one more concert, which is going to be August 19th, and Ramble Tamble will be playing that night, which is a Monday night. So, aside from that, I'm going to turn things over to Paul here, who is going to come up and be our MC tonight. And by the way, Micheal Waite will be here. We had some transportation issues, so we're going to do our first round of readings, and then Micheal will be here and will provide some musical entertainment while everybody grabs some sustenance. Okay? So, please, without further ado, give a big hand of welcome to Paul Lemberg.
Thank you. It was my pleasure and my responsibility to edit these essays, find the writers. I think back, it's years now that this has been going on. These essays were written over a period of 6 years. We had an interrupt called COVID, and we thought the whole thing was going to collapse, and so we all kind of went home. But then somehow it got started up again, and anyway, yeah, here it is. A little bit about the readers. We had Marquette is, close to the edge of the earth, and nobody pays us any attention except to come up here and look at the lake and the trees. But we ended up with a very diverse group of writers, these 45 people. And by the time we got to 45, I could still think of more people that I wanted to have write. But you have to draw it to conclusion sometimes. We had. I'm going to read this to you. This is from out of the introduction. Our writers. We were churched and unchurched. We came from many walks of life. We included students, poets, artists, elementary school crossing guards, faith leaders, journalists, sociologists, social workers, teachers, priests, musicians, environmental activists, physicians and volunteers and retirees of all sorts. All this in Little Marquette. Our ages ranged from 18 to 94. So, and I didn't look at the breakdown by male and female, but probably pretty even. So anyway, it's in a way it's a representative example of what can be done in a town as small as Marquette. I'm amazed at the book. I'm amazed at the quality of the writing. As I mentioned, I was working on the project with many people over a span of 6 years, and then I kind of forgot about it. And somehow somebody got the idea to do a book. And I went back, and I was skeptical. And I went back and I looked at what we had, and my skepticism turned to amazement. So anyway, we're going to hear 6 people read tonight. I'm not sure of the order. We may also still be having transportation difficulties. Lonnie, are you here? Lonnie is not here yet. Okay, well, okay. We'll begin with Nancy.
Oh, she's coming.
Oh.
Somebody says she's involved.
She's here.
Hurry up, Lonnie.
I couldn't get through. He's trying to get through. The door.
I'm going to, you can sit down for, I'm going to introduce people. The introductions are going to be very brief. I'm going to do the introduction, but the introductions were actually written by the contributors themselves. This is what appears at the end of the volume in the contributors' notes. Lanny Lanto says this about herself. She's a leader of the UP Wild Church, a gathering of young adults who see the natural world as a bearer of the sacred. UP Wild seeks to connect Christians who wish to join together to care for the creation. Lonnie, can you come and read your essay for us?
I'm just going to take a breath, look around. Hi, Mom. Thanks to Diana for coming to get me out there. John's doing an interview for one of the TV stations, so we can check for that later. This essay that I wrote is called Holy Water. You could heal yourself at the palm of the lake all winter long. These words are inscribed on a pendant that I gave to my husband a few years ago before we moved away from Marquette. Last year, when we were contemplating moving back, I heard those words echoing in my head. We have lived a lot of places, but in each new place we were missing something. A part of us was gone, but then Lake Superior called us back. Now, as we embark on the adventure of acquiring land, we do so assuming that the groundwater quality is among the purest in the world. But after attending a session called Clean Water Wild Places, sponsored by the Cedar Tree Institute, we've learned that because the UP is full of natural resources, this also makes it one of the most heavily extracted and mined areas on the planet. And we don't have to look far to see this. These remains of the mining, we have the caving grounds of Negaunee, the waste basins surrounding the Empire and the Tilden mines. They're so large that they can be seen from space. Currently, there is a proposed Back 40 mine, which will be a sulfide mine located only 150 feet from the Menominee River. The Menominee flows into Green Bay on Lake Michigan, where millions of us get our drinking water. The open pit of the back 40 will be as deep as 5 statues of liberty, and the footprint of the mine will cover over 1,000 acres. Waste tailings will be left on site, using a dam infrastructure that poses a clear potential threat to all nearby water sources. Should we be concerned? A National Wildlife Federation report warns the Great Lakes region, of which we live, is not yet adequately positioned to regulate an onslaught of new sulfide mining proposals. The world tells us that beneath us we will find riches, gold, silver, copper, lead. But I have been listening to another message. How blessed is the one who finds wisdom and gains understanding, for its profits is better than the profit of silver, and its gain is more than fine gold. Wisdom is more precious than jewels. Proverbs 3:13. Biblical wisdom does not derive from corporations or public relations teams. It comes to us through those around us who have acquired stillness, who ask permission from the sacred, and who recognize the holiness of creation. My faith has taught me that water is sacred and given to us as a gift from God. When a community in Alaska faced a very similar mining proposal to the back 40, the local Orthodox Christian church performed the rite of the great blessing of water. By dipping a cross into the water 3 times, the water was consecrated. It had become holy water. Bishop Ben Peterson explained, quote, "In sanctifying the water, we are sanctifying the basic element for life. The land is held in sacred trust from one generation to the next. The choices that we make today will affect our children and then our children's children," end quote. At stake was not just this particular community's ability to live sustainably. At stake was its very survival, water, life. Pope Francis, in his encyclical Laudato Si, wrote, quote, "Our common home is like a sister, with whom we share our life, and a beautiful mother who opens her arms to embrace us. The sister now cries out to us because of the harm inflicted on her in our irresponsible use and abuse of the goods with which God has endowed her. We have come to see ourselves as her Lord and masters, entitled to plunder her at will. The violence present in our hearts, wounded by sin, is also reflected in the symptoms of sickness evident in the soil, in the water, in the air, in all forms of life. So of course it's up to us to educate ourselves further on how we can best keep our own precious fresh water clean and pure. For water is life, and it's not without limit, and its degradation or loss, they're not negotiable. As a Christian, I stand with cross in hand, in between the holy water and the Leviathan, that which threatens upheaving the waters into chaos. This symbolic act is my call to action, in remembrance of the responsibility that God has placed on all his baptized. We are called to be the stewards of Eden. We are called to be the voice for creation and the protector of the mysteries of God. Amen.
Thank you, Lonnie. Next, Nancy Auer. Nancy is an ordained Episcopal priest and an emeritus professor of biological sciences at Michigan Tech. She's currently working on a children's book in hopes of building appreciation for lake sturgeon and the Great Lakes.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. My writing is titled A Prayer for Its Great Journey, which seems a little weird, but you'll understand soon. Have you ever thought deeply about the perfection of our planet Earth? It is perfectly placed in the solar system to receive the perfect amount of sunlight to keep life thriving and balanced. All life requires water, from the deepest sea vent organisms living in total darkness in water temperatures reaching 195 degrees, to penguins standing on the ice incubating their eggs for 70 days in minus 35 Fahrenheit temperatures. Water in all of its forms and in astounding array of temperatures is life-giving to whatever lives and breathes on the planet Earth. Even Earth's one perfect moon, when aligned with the sun, gives life by strengthening the tides, which freshen the water in bays, estuaries, and intertidal areas, and in so doing moves out wastes that will become nutrients for sea organisms. Perhaps my focused attention on water comes from my teaching and research in general biology, zoology, fish biology, and biological oceanography at Michigan Tech. The health of every organism and plant on Earth depends upon water, and we can no longer abuse, disrespect, or ignore its impressive gift of water. I've been fortunate to live most of my life near water. When I was a child in Minnesota, each summer I rode my bike almost daily to the beaches near Lake Minnetonka, where I swam for hours until my skin turned into prune-like wrinkles. At age 18, I left home to attend college in Duluth, Minnesota, so that I could be near Lake Superior, because it called to me. I also loved the Boundary Waters canoe area, waters that seemed especially tied to my heart. My college roommates and I would go winter camping or summer canoeing in the remote regions of northern Minnesota. That is where the rivers and lakes were inhabited by the loons, and we could hear the howl of the wolf. In college, on Earth Day 1970, I led a group of students called Students for Environmental Defense in celebrating and calling for the protection of the waters of the Queen of the Lakes, Lake Superior. After college, my husband and I chose to live and make our careers on Lake Superior, and both of us have done a majority of our academic research on the water and organisms of the Great Lakes region. We both also taught courses in which we hope to inspire care for the big lake and also awareness of the precious connection between life and water. We feel blessed by our opportunity to live intimately with water and to witness what an extraordinary gift it is. Beside the teaching and research of academic life, a second thread has run through my life, which is practicing a religious belief, and related to that, seeking for evidence of something beyond the individual self, something greater, a spirit in my life and in the lives of others. For me, that something which is beyond our immediate grasp is a spirit embedded in our human connection to Earth and all other living organisms. Some of you know that a large portion of my academic life has been dedicated to the conservation of an ancient fish, the lake sturgeon, which is also the largest freshwater fish in the Great Lakes region. One spring day, while working to gather data from spawning lake sturgeon, I stood in the river and held up in my palm an egg. A small sturgeon embryo remained in a little pool of water. The tiny size of this soon-to-hatch fish exemplified for me the vulnerability of all creatures. This embryo was a bit of life about to start a journey of growth and maturation that might result in a 7, maybe 8-foot adult sturgeon that would live to be 100 or 150 years old. I eased my hand back into the water to protect that single embryo, and as I did so, I said a prayer for its great journey. Just as each human is important, each animal and plant is important, and all of us are deeply connected by the gift of water. It is when we experience the spirit of interconnections that we can more readily understand and accept our need to care for and reverence our waters. When we practice respect and reverence for the gift of water, we begin to see a greater connection to all life, and we begin to extend that spirit of reverence to the whole earth. It's my hope that by acknowledging the remarkable gift of water, we can renew our spirit of reverence for all of the earth. There ends the reading.
We'll have one other reading, and then we'll take a short break, an intermission. John Magnuson is going to come up here and make some sort of announcement. I wonder what he's going to say. But anyway, Heidi will read. Heidi Stevenson is a lifetime pupil of Lake Superior, a feral academic, and the found poet and founder of @Paused Poetry on Instagram. Heidi?
All right. Thanks for having me. My piece, titled Marilyn Monroe's Soup, opens with a quote from Masaru Emoto, and there will be quotes interspersed throughout, just to be a little bit less confusing. From Dr. Emoto first. Water records information, and while circulating throughout the earth distributes information. The water sent from the universe is full of the information of life. Swimming in Lake Superior, I imagine all of the seagulls, sturgeon, and people and plovers also touching the water. I remember reading long ago that all of Earth's water is continuously recycled. I imagine swimming in water that was once dinosaur urine, Genghis Khan's sneeze, Marilyn Monroe's soup. Water, in both metaphor and substance, is the real internet. A quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. The wave lives the life of a wave and at the same time the life of water. When you breathe for all of us. And then I think about the water I carry within me, the body of water I am. What was my body's 55% water before it was me today? The river water that finished off Rasputin, Prince's tears. I daydream in interconnection. A quote from Craig Minowa of Cloud Cult. And when they burn your body, all that's left is sand crystals, 2 tiny handfuls. All the rest is water, 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 water. All you need to know is you were born of water. You are made of water. You are living water, 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 water. My mother died the night before her 45th birthday. She had made her wishes clear, and 20-year-old me felt calm. Cremation, no obit, no service. Ashes sprinkled in Lake Superior, simple. My father and I, one of her sisters, and our poodle Nikki descended on the beach. I worried, suddenly, that I was doing this wrong, feeling the wrong feelings, not supporting the other mourners. We sprinkled the ashes. Was I supposed to wail, fall to my knees? Which would she have wanted? I did not make it far through this self-interrogation before Nikki rushed to the water's edge for a drink, lapping up a little of my mother's remains with the lake. I laughed. And if the rest of those ashes could have reinfused themselves with enough Lake Superior water to walk and talk again, my mother would have laughed too. A quote from E. E. Cummings. For whatever we lose, like a you or a me, it's always ourself we find in the sea. My friend's husband and I are no longer Facebook friends. Lake Superior doomed us. To him, such power made Lake Superior masculine. To me, Lake Superior is feminine, Mother Superior. Maybe I saw my own mother's sudden shifts from placid to ferocious in her. And now, maybe, at a time when I see women having to go to extraordinary lengths to take their power back from those who hurt them, I see yet another female who has been exploited and hurt going to extraordinary lengths to take her power back too. A quote from Charles Simic. Inside my wine bottle, I was constructing a lighthouse while all the others were making sailing ships. An energy worker once told me I was carrying around little pieces of the people with whom I interacted in my body. I was an assistant professor of composition at the time, so I interacted with a lot of people, individually, daily. I giggled. Like Freddy at the end of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, with all those little faces popping out of his burnt skin, screaming to be set free. I can tell this is not a big Nightmare on Elm Street crowd. In more serious contemplation, I later realized that when witnessing the suffering of others, my knee-jerk reaction has always been, give me that suffering, I can take it. Nowadays, sidelined from much by chronic illness, including pain that comes, meanders, and goes for little apparent reason, I wonder if I've been granted my wish. I wonder how I'm supposed to shed all that suffering. And I wonder if I should, because where would it go? A quote from Katie Crutchfield of Waxahachie. I went out in the storm, and I'm never returning. This past October brought an intense gale to the south shore of Lake Superior. We lost a large chunk of the lakefront sand dune on which the foreclosure we've been fixing up since 2012 sits. The lake gouged the shoreline, already vulnerable after years of high water and increasingly intense storms. I felt trauma, loss. My initial thoughts were, we love you, lake. Why have you hurt us? And one more quote from Masaru Emoto. Water, we are sorry. Water, please forgive us. Water, we thank you. Water, we love you. But forgiveness only goes so far when you are still under assault. Line 5. tourism, Asian carp. She is bucking us. All that emotion, information she holds for us is too much. She has taken on the pain of others, and now she is fighting to save herself. I don't blame her. I understand. Maybe she is showing me how to do the same. Thanks.
John, come up and surprise us.
So I have sat in this room, as many of you have, with one of the great naturalists and really prophets in this part of the world, Lon Emmerich. Lon was a speech pathologist at NMU, but his real calling was to be a naturalist. And of course, he wrote his many books with his assistance from his wife, Lynn. He told me once, you know, John, 95% of people who come over the Mackinac Bridge, the Upper Peninsula is a postcard. That's all it is, in which they want to play. They want to just recreate. They're really not interested in what's happening to the water or the forests or the landscape or the ecosystem. And that has always stayed with me, because a night like this stands in such utter contradiction to that kind of mass banal consciousness that is now so dominant in our country. As I sat in the back listening to the writers, Will Sharp, are you here tonight? No, he had to leave early. I mention this because Will and I have talked about this. You know, one of the fascinating parts of living here in this part of the Great Lakes Basin is you look down Lake Superior, especially when those of us who grew up here, or even as adults, and on a quiet day you can see the sparkling, the clear, you can't see this in an inland lake, you know, the clear pebbles, the rocks, right? They glisten, almost like jewels. That's what you were for me tonight. Standing here in the back, watching you, we were listening to these words, these poets, these writers from among us, making this environment glisten, making it sacred. And thank you so much for coming tonight. The thing is, you can't see the glistening of the rocks in Lake Superior, the pebbles, unless it's quiet. Have you ever noticed that? And there's a quietness in the room tonight. Oh, it's magical. I feel it in my bones tonight. Thank you for coming. So we have an intermission. We have three more readers, and then we have some music. Michael's on his way from his home up on the Big Bay Road. There are a couple of things, though, I want to just quickly mention before we break. The work goes on. This interfaith initiative is a ground-up operation right here. We don't have any grants or anything like that. We're dependent on people's generosity. We're not trying to reach too far, but we have an initiative that goes for 2 years. And I would like to invite Jeff Noble, could you come up here? And Sarah, could you come up here? And you don't have to say anything. I just want you with me because you two are so important here for us. Jeff is a firefighter, a retired wildland firefighter. Many of you know him. Got his education at MTU and then went into firefighting with the state and has traveled all over North America. He has planted with me and the Cedar Tree Institute 30,000 trees since 1995. 30,000 cedar trees. Right, this guy right here. How have we done that? We've done that with 250 churches, 5 American Indian tribes, dozens of at-risk kids, people in recovery, people who are disabled, physically challenged, wheelchairs, we've been with them. And we're putting 1,000 in the next year. And so if you want to help us with that and this initiative, there's a chance to do that. This book back here that was published, these essays are being read from, you're invited to purchase one. They're at Snowbound at the Regional Center, History Center, but they're also here tonight. Think about them as a gift, not simply for yourself, but as a gift. And by doing that, you are helping carry on this work. Along with the tree planting, there's 3 other components, briefly. One is some community forums, working with, and that will be, you'll hear about, one in September coming up, by physicians, scientists, geologists, people from all walks of life, Native people. Secondly, we're going to support the American Native communities here as they work on their own water projects. We're going to do workshops for wells. Those of you who have wells in rural settings, we're going to explore what the challenges are to improve water quality. And then lastly, we're going to make the connection. We're supporting 2 drinking wells on the other side of the planet. One in Tanzania and one in India. And we're going to do that through the help of our networks of the Episcopal and Lutheran churches. So that's the project. This gal right here, Sarah, is our coordinator, our communications person, our facilitator. You're going to see her face around in Marquette Monthly. There's a series of columns coming. There she is. She's going to be drinking water. You'll see it every month starting in September. There'll be 12 writers. This guy will be our on-the-ground tree guy and our well, one of our well specialists. So that's where we're going. So my last word is this. How does this happen? You know, vision is not enough. Dreams are not enough. I once talked to a director of the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Portland. She told me, you know, John, she was from Pine Ridge. She said, I don't want to hear any more ideas. Every day I get people coming in here. They've got so many wonderful ideas, but they can't make it happen. They can't make it happen. If you're going to propose something, you tell me how you're going to make it happen. They're making it happen. You're making it happen. We're going to make it happen. And this happened, which is a surprise to us. When John got his first copy, he said, John, and he'll close us tonight with his reading. He said, John, I just got the copy. I can't believe it. It is so beautifully laid out. It's like a Zen, like a Zen product or something. It's simple. It's modest. It's clean. Yes, this is from us here in the Upper Peninsula. This is the jewel here, thanks to this guy, Paul, who, elicited 45 writers, ages 19 to 96. So if you want to help us as a gift or whatever, think about that. There's also some newsletters in the back. Lastly, I want to turn over here. I'm not going to say a lot, but here's the announcement. Is anybody here from NMU's public radio tonight? Hans possibly was going to join us, Hans Alstrom. Okay. Here's the announcement. This fall, an audiobook will be released with the actual writers reading their essays, and they'll be read on PBS here in Marquette and distributed across North America. John and Pauline Kiltonen, thank you for that. Now we eat and come back in a few minutes. So please eat, books, whatever you need, and converse, bathrooms, whatever you need, and we'll ring the bells. So thank you, Jeff, thank you, Sarah.
Protected.
So do you remember the canoe trip up in the Boundary Waters with me?
No.
Well, there were 3 of us.
What's your name?
Mark Ellefson from Wilmer.
Yeah. I remember, yes.
I got a really bad sunburn up there.
Yeah.
It was stupid of me.
Well, I guided up there for years.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't want to disturb anything here.
Yeah, we could talk later.
Yeah.
It was good to see you. Let's see, can we gather at the river here? I'm just kind of looking around the room here. Have we got people who are represented in the book who are not reading here tonight? Anybody? Okay. Yeah, Marty. Anybody else? Well, we want to recognize folks who are not reading, but who are also represented there. Diana Magnuson, are you here? Oh, there you are. Yeah. But Diana didn't write anything, but she took lots of good photographs that are interspersed throughout. Yeah, so many people are involved in creating something like this. It's not just the writers. Okay, but back to the writers. The next one is no longer with us. Miriam Hilton. Actually, we have 3 people represented in the book who've passed on. But that's one of the good things about a book is that people's ideas can live on. This is what was said about Miriam. She grew up in a Presbyterian missionary household in Iran. She came to Marquette as a young wife in 1950, where she raised 5 children that would have been right next door to my house, and put down many deep roots. She passed away in 2021 at age 96. 96. And her daughter, Anne, is going to read Miriam's essay.
And I want to acknowledge that another of the 5 kids is here. My sister Margaret is here for Asahi Week. And my daughter, Betsy Fisher-Pye, is here. So it's been great to have them both in town, refugees from much warmer places. I will tell you that when Paul approached me, he said, "Do you think your mother can do this?" My mother was at that point living in Brookridge. And I said, "I don't know, I'll ask her." And she said, "Absolutely." She could no longer use her fingers. She had typed and written for a long time. But she grew up in the time before word processing. And so she always knew every paragraph before she put it to paper. And so, in fact, she dictated this. Pretty much 100% to me. So it's really her words, except for one point where I got the mountain range wrong, and that was my mistake, not hers. So, but she took great pleasure when the hospice social worker came and said, how would you describe yourself? And those of you who know my mother know there are a million ways she could have described herself, mostly as sort of the volunteer extraordinaire in Marquette who did so much with senior citizens and children. But what she said to the hospice social worker is, I was a writer. And so this is the last thing she wrote. If you grow up in a country like Iran, where water is very scarce, you realize what a precious resource it is. Kermanshaw, where my parents were missionaries and where I first lived, had very hot summers with virtually no precipitation. For centuries, people preserved water from the nearby Zagros Mountains in covered cisterns. Our home in the mission compound had a tank on the roof that collected rainwater and then went straight into the bathroom for bathing. Water for gardening came through a ditch which people diverted with small dams toward their gardens. This resulted in water disputes much like the ones my husband Earl later told me were so prevalent in his home state of Wyoming, with downstream users complaining that those upstream had taken more than was rightfully theirs. Later on, when we lived in Tehran, miles of underground aqueducts called qanats brought water from the foothills of the Elbrus Mountains into the city. I remember men and women with tin buckets descending underground staircases to collect water from the qanats. The most precious water was always our drinking water. In every city, our drinking water was delivered by donkeys carrying large tins of water. We transferred water from the tins into large earthenware jars in our courtyard. From there, the water would be taken into the house to be boiled and placed in smaller jars for drinking. There were always 2 jugs of drinking water in the house, one cooling and the other with an enameled cup on top for drinking. When we left the house, we always carried our canvas-covered metal canteens because we were never sure we would be able to find safe drinking water. I have vivid memories of hiking in the mountains alongside burbling cold brooks, but being allowed to drink only the stale warm water from our canteens. When we rounded a bend in the path, we could often see why. There would be a flock of sheep standing in the stream. Dry as the land was, almost every home had a pool or a pond. Many were fairly small, only 10 or 12 feet in diameter, and used mostly to water plants in the courtyard and to sprinkle on the paving bricks to keep them cool. In Kermanshaw, my father had a larger pool built that we could also use to swim in. And because our family had young children, I was the oldest of 6, he built one end very shallow with a fence separating that end from the deep end, so the little ones could dabble in the shallow part while the adults swam in the deep end. One summer day, when I was 4 years old and my father was away, my mother decided to teach me to swim. When my father came home, I was sitting on the edge of the pool by the deep end, and suddenly I jumped in. Just as he was about to jump in after me, I turned over on my back, kicking and laughing. I'll never forget how proud he was of me. I also remember swimming in the pool in the mission gardens above Hamadan. The water came straight from a mountain stream and was very, very cold. My father wore a one-piece wool swimming suit that covered his chest and back, and I remember he would splash cold water on his stomach before immersing himself in the pond. We had a physician there who had come to Iran fleeing Hitler's Germany, and she always jumped straight in and started swimming vigorously. Even my father was a little mortified that he could not tolerate the cold water as well as she could. Many years later, I came to the UP, married to a Wyoming fisherman whose favorite line was, "Let's follow this road. Maybe there's a stream down there." Lake Superior, at least in July or August, was still warmer than those mountain streams in Hamadan. At age 95, I am now grateful for the beach wheelchair at Lambros Park that allows me to immerse myself in our beautiful lake. I will never take our precious water for granted.
Your next reader is Richard Hackler, who says only this, that he has lived in Duluth and Minneapolis, and he teaches college English in Minneapolis. Now, Richard is a type. Students who come and enrich this place, and then they leave, and they go elsewhere. Anyway, Richard and I have stayed in contact. Come read us a story, Richard.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Does this work if I talk like this? Can you hear me? I should make it higher. Yeah. I don't really know. Okay. I don't know how to use a microphone. Whoa, yeah. All right. How's that? Okay, thank you. This is called This Way of Seeing, which was an essay that Paul helped me, or a title that Paul helped me come up with, because I couldn't think of a title. So thanks to Paul for the title. But this is how it goes. I don't usually remember my dreams. Lately, though, one has been sticking with me. I'm alone on the beach, sitting with my legs folded in front of me. It's early evening, the sky is dimming, and the water is rippling out to the horizon. This might be at McCarty's Cove or Park Point in Duluth, I'm not sure. Wherever I am, it's clear I'm looking at Lake Superior, and what I'm doing is what I spent countless evenings doing during the 12 years I lived near the lake. I'm looking out at the water until the sand cools under my thighs and the evening leaks from the sky. But then I begin sobbing. I think it's... Is it good? I think so. Oh, it was a little... Okay. All right. So I begin sobbing. It is not a subtle dream. This is when I wake up. In 2014, I moved to Minneapolis from Marquette, and I did this for a few good reasons. My family lives nearby, and my grandfather was nearing the end of his life. I needed to be here. Plus, I didn't make very much money in Marquette, and my prospects of making more, or of staying at all solvent, really, seemed dim. And I'd caught the sense from my friends, most of whom I'd met in graduate school, and most of whom viewed Marquette as a 2 to 3 year stop on a journey towards something else, that to stay put is to stagnate, that one must leave and challenge oneself in order to grow, which sounded so sensible and like the sort of plain truth I would regret accepting if I didn't accept it then. And so, early in May, I spent a long morning at McCarty's Cove saying goodbye to the lake, and then I drove to Minneapolis, where I am right now, sitting at my desk, looking out a window that faces a parking lot. And I don't regret it. Minneapolis has been lovely in so many ways. My parents are nearby. I met my wife here. And aside from this, there is everything that a city provides. Very good falafel and live music whenever I like, and used bookstores everywhere. I teach at 3 different colleges, and I dart between them on a single-speed bicycle, which injects a messy, headlong joy into my days. But while there is so much here to divert and delight me, Major League Baseball and protected bike lanes and punk shows and basements, I still miss the lake every day. It is difficult to imagine this ever changing. I don't know how to talk about why without reverting to cliché. I know that after my sister died in 2009, I walked from my house to McCarty's Cove almost every evening, and I would sit on the beach, listen to the lake breathe, and wait for my thoughts to slow and still. I know that doing this allowed me to function during the day at a passably normal level. I know that the lake, by virtue of its nearness and largeness and ubiquity, became for me both substance and spirit, a sort of living God. Every day I would walk to the lake. I would bike near the lake. I would go to the grocery store and glimpse from the parking lot the lake. And the lake pulled me over and over again, out of my head, and set me gasping into the here and now. The lake then was an alarm clock, and the lake was a daily reminder that, as essayist Annie Dillard had it, that our lives here, and I mean your life and my life and anyone's life anywhere, are in some elemental way utterly terrifying and unfathomable, a quote, faint tracing on the surface of mystery, which seems, as I write it, so uncosmopolitan, filled as my days are with things that are easy to understand, buses and freeway overpasses and bars that sell me craft cocktails. Sometimes I ride my bike to one of our lakes. Minneapolis is the city of lakes, after all. But the lakes here are small and murky, and the parks surrounding them impeccably manicured. I've never sat by Lake Harriet and feared that I might be merging with the divine. I recognize that this might be my fault. If there is such a thing as the divine, then it must be here too. I hope I find it. Until I figure out how, until I can sharpen my gaze so that it locates the sacred pulsing beneath even my blandest days, I'll keep returning to Lake Superior. I'll rent a car when I need to. I'll drive to Marquette, I'll sit by the water and be shocked back to my senses. And I'll try to take it back with me, this knowledge, this way of seeing, this whatever it is. I'll try to spend it slowly. I'll try to make it last.
One final reader, John Smolens, is Professor Emeritus at Northern Michigan University, where he taught in the English department and served as the director of the Master of Fine Arts program in creative writing. John has published 12 full-length works of fiction. His latest novel is called A Cold Hard Prayer. He lives in Marquette. John?
Do you mind, Richard? How's that? There's so many ordained people here tonight. And those who are not ordained, like Heidi and Ann and Richard, they're saints. So I'm here to balance things out a little bit. As John Magnuson said, my neighbor, my wonderful neighbors, John and Diana, I was really pleased and shocked and surprised, and when I first saw this book, it's just a lovely piece of work, and I'm really honored to be a part of this whole group. Excuse me. This piece is called All Waters Meet. In July, let me turn this down a little bit. In July, Lake Superior's pastel horizon remains forever out of reach. Though I trim the Genoa and harden the main on the Mary B, sailing so close to the wind that the stays and shrouds whistle, I never reach the earth's rim. There are no boundaries, no edges, only the soft arc of where water meets sky. A summer afternoon on the lake is like sailing away from time. Who hasn't paused to watch the sun and the moon rise? Whoops, it's doing it again. I got it. Yeah. I used to be a roadie. Okay, let me try that again. Who hasn't paused to watch the sun and the moon rise above the lake? In such moments, we can sense the earth turning, a blue timepiece spinning through the celestial sea, an intricate dance of orbiting bodies in perpetual motion. Stargazing scientists suggest that the universe never ends, a notion that is difficult to grasp, but I have come to believe it, to accept that we live in a firmament that is part of an eternal cosmos, and that our mortality is a necessary contribution to the infinite. When my wife Patricia, Risha to friends, was dying of a brain tumor, she spent months in hospice care, confined to a hospital bed, looking out our den windows toward the lake. I am convinced that she died in stages. Repeatedly, she went away and she came back, and then she... Sorry. All right. I could talk loud enough for you to hear me, but I guess you're recording this, so you need this, right? I'm convinced that she died in stages. Repeatedly, she went away and came back, and while away, she journeyed out there, wherever there is, and found that it was neither dark nor threatening, that it provided neither reward nor judgment. Her coming and going was necessary preparation, and when it was time, she was ready to go. These days, there is little else I take comfort in, but that is enough. Out there beyond the lake lies eternity, and is not to be feared but embraced. 4 years before Risha died, my mother suffered a massive stroke, which confined her for months to a hospital bed near my sister's home in Oregon. The last time I sat with my mother, I'm sorry. It just keeps going down and down and down. All right. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Technical difficulties, as they call it in media land. 4 years before my mother died, 4 years before Risha died, my mother suffered a massive stroke, which confined her for months to a hospital bed near my sister's home in Oregon. The last time I sat with my mother, she told me what we should do after. Spread her ashes on the lake. The summer days we sailed out from the lower harbor reminded her of the years she spent on Cape Cod. I suggested that we could take her to Nantucket Sound, where our father had gone 26 years earlier. She shook her head. No, the lake, she said. You don't want to be near him? No, I will be, she said. All waters meet. All waters meet gave me a new definition of geography, of distance, of how one thing relates to another. From my den windows, I can see where my mother and Risha are, due east of the rocks in McCarty's Cove. They are there, yes, but they are everywhere that there is water. They went in on the same day, August 4th, 4 years apart. Both days filled with sun, myriad variations of blue, and light breezes. When you pour ashes into the lake, they turn colors. In the cases of both my mother and wife, it was a luminous turquoise, which spread and shifted, moving with the mystery of smoke as it drifted down into the darkening water, translucent particles flickering as though alive, finally released in their element. We chose August 4th because it was my brother Peter's birthday, so on both occasions we returned to my house and to commemorate his new year. When it is my turn, my surviving family knows where to take me, how to set the sails, how to return and once again celebrate. Latitude and longitude provide certainty and solace. My mother loved to collect seashells on Cape Cod. Risha to collect beach stones anywhere. You only need to hold such a stone in your hand, rounded smooth, to appreciate the inexorable force of water. It is beautiful not just for what it is, but for what it has worn away, what has been worn away. A beach stone may be the one true manifestation of time. Lake Superior is a relatively young body of water, the result of the most recent glacial age. But what is important is what the lake was always meant to be. For us it always will be. We are fortunate to live on the shores of eternity. We can see its horizon, and on a summer's day we can set sail for that place where water meets sky, knowing that we can never reach it. Thank you very much.
Well, such variety, all in the little UP, and such quality. Let's thank all of our writers for the work that they have given to us this evening. Okay, I'll hand it over to, I believe Micheal is here.
I can be pretty loud, so I'll just kind of aim it generally in the direction. There we go. Well, hello, everybody. talking to it at the same time. I was Well, thank you for being here. And I'm sorry I came late to hear all of the readers, but this is wonderful to be able to sing a couple of my songs that are water related. I don't have too many songs that are directly about water, but quite a few that have where water is an important part. I started thinking too about songs that I love and I couldn't. The list we got long pretty quick, so it's. I don't know if that's true of all people's favorite songs, or if I just happen to like water songs more. Anyway, here's this is a song that. I wrote a long time ago when I lived in Kalamazoo next to a little stream. And I don't know, kind of crazy person as usual, but maybe more so back then because I was about 19 years old and I decided to stop cutting my hair, or stop washing my hair so it would get all messy. I was just trying to I don't know. So after a couple years, I had to cut them off. The matted mess, and I thought it was too much of a thing to just throw in the garbage. It was such a stage of my life, and I buried it next to this stream. I won't tell you where though, because I have read and that if someone knows where you buried your hair, they can witch you. I know it's different. I read it in a book and I remember thinking, this is ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
But I also don't tell people where that is. Here we go. I know a liar who's straining to open his heart. His body is falling apart all across the city. He's been running, bound by the shackles of time. Corridors and caverns of his mind, the cold wind blows. Ooh, where did I go wrong? He'll go walking till somebody carries him home, and where he buries his head is not your secret. I know a river where all of the spirits flow free, between the Father up above and the Mother Ocean, where we'll be. Ooh, won't you help me find a song and it's about the place where I live now on the Wilson Creek, which is about 20 miles north of here. And it's just a simple song. I'm not going to explain it anymore, I guess. First time I saw her, I thought my life was done. Now I look upon that day and see it just begun. It was in the springtime, the rain was falling down. She didn't seem to notice me, and I could not make a sound. Pretty little river roll free, what you trying to do? Give up all I own to call you darling. Gonna build a tree house way up in the sky, so I can see my true love as she goes rolling by. Every single morning just about to break our day, giggles at my doorstep and rolls along her way. Pretty little river rolling free, what you trying to do? Give up all I own to call you darling. You in my mouth, dear, in my ears, in my nose. Why you make me happy, I guess that heaven only knows. It was in the springtime, the rain was falling down. She didn't seem to notice me, and I could not make a sound. Pretty little river rolling free, what you trying to do? Give up all I own and call you darling. Yeah. It's I grew up out in Harvey, not too far from the lake, and spent a lot of time on the Chocolate River and the lake, and swimming, and just always been really interested in boats and stuff. And when I was, one dream I had as a kid was to go out on the ocean and sail around. And I found a little ad in the back of, because before the internet, you had to find a little ad in the back of a magazine to find weird things. And there was an ad saying you could go to Alaska and just call this number, and we'll pay you to chop fish up. And I was like, oh, great. And so I went and wrote this song sitting on the deck. Started writing this song, and then just wrote one verse of it, and then through other things that happened, I wrote other verses. So here we go. It's just maybe 3 verses. I don't know. That's right. I think it's called Held in Careless Beauty. I will miss this. I know I can cry, drink my salt water into the sea, curl up in the belly of a monstrosity. Cool nip of the breeze can easily be confused with arms around, blankets around me, held in careless beauty. These days, logs fall to form a roof like so many turns that form a lifetime, like a child's hands folded in a bedtime prayer. Old man sitting in the quiet. It's bread and soup tonight. I know I can fly through my life and I'll still be me. Dumb as an ox and as wide as a dream. The eye of the storm will keep me healthy and warm, free. Held in careless beauty. I don't want to be the messenger of death. Promise the one life I'll sit set strong. Night wind will offer me her breath. Promise of another dawn. These days I kill because I'm hungry, and I live because I know I too must die. Tear at the earth to make things right. One day it's bound to come together. Oh, I won't be long. Said I know that there's power in the purposes that lead us to see. You can't help feeling that you just got to be free. Stand up and shout aloud and sing along with me. Heaven knows you will ever be held in careless beauty. Not sure how many songs I should sing, but we got all night. You guys. There's I guess I should continue on with this song since it's a sort of a continuation of that story I was telling. I love spending a summer on the ocean, and you know, eventually ended up back in Marquette, and took about 3 years to stop looking for whale spouts. But got over it, I think, mostly. Other than that, I am a lake person too. It's nice to hear those words spoken earlier about it. Anyway, so one day I was riding my bike from Harvey towards Marquette, and particularly stressed out about my situation. I don't remember what the details were. It doesn't matter, I guess. But I stopped and looked, and it was one of those dark water days where it's gray and there's waves crashing everywhere, and it's just kind of really made me change my put myself into my little problems into perspective a little bit. And I thought about these people. I started kind of singing this song. I thought about these people that I met who never really wanted to come back to land, people who worked on the ocean. They loved it out there, and also kind of didn't like the land. And I thought that'd be a fun attitude to take for a song. You know, the land has so many people, for example. I think that was sort of the main complaint. Like, it's socially very simple. If you're, even the boat that we were on was a big, you know, a factory ship, and it had 80 people on it or something, but I mean, it's still a very small town. And then even when you interact with others, it's, you know, we didn't very often do that. So here we go. Here's this song. For all those people who are still following this story, you probably can relate. And oh Lord, put me out on the sea, beneath the bellowing sky. Let me fall off this pier into a basket of dreams. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. I've been on the lowland, I've been on the hill, looking for some place to be. There's no work in the mine and no work in the mill. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. Well, I pulled it together and I went back to school. I went for my bachelor's degree. Well, 6 years have passed and I still work like a mule. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. Here's the chorus. Once again. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea, beneath the billowing sky. Let me fall off this pier into a basket of dreams. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. Wanted a family, I looked for a wife, a place we could all be. I never had such hard times in life. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. Just give me the sky, the sky, the sky, 360 degrees. Yeah, rock me to bed with a lump in my hair. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea, beneath the bellowing sky. Let me fall off this pier into a basket of dreams. Oh Lord, put me out on the sea. Oh, when I'm dead, laid out on the shore, don't you make a big fuss over me. Just send me adrift in a boat with no oars. Let the wind take it from there.
Well, we're going to have Michael do a couple more songs, but John Magnuson just told me the end of our worship is here. So if you feel like you need to leave, that's fine, but we're going to have Michael do a couple more songs. So, okay?
I can do the nasty ones. I mean, thinking that Irish. I don't make a habit of learning nasty songs, I guess. I know everybody likes to hear it, but. But slightly nasty, maybe like, yeah, I would like to play actually a couple of Irish songs if I could. there's this one that I might have played at the last Gift of Water event. Trying to remember. Anyway, this is a immigration song. Oh, I'll play a different immigration song. How about that? Sorry. This one's Patty's Green Shamrock Shore, although that's the one I was just going to play. Which is maybe I should play that one. Oh, here's my reminder. From Derry town, sailed away on the 23rd of May. We were boarded by a pleasant crew bound for America. Fresh water there, we did take on 5,000 gallons or more. In case we'd run short, going to New York, far away from the Shamrock Shore. Said fairly well, sweet lives dear, and likewise to Derrytown. And twice farewell to me comrade boys who dwell on that saint ground. If fortune it ever should fail me, or I do have money in store, I'll come back and I'll wed the wee lass that I left far away on the Shamrock Shore. Sailed 3 days, we were all seasick, not a man on board was free. We were all confined to our little bunks, with no one to pity poor me. No father dear, no mother kind, to hold up the head when 'twas sore, which made me think more of the last that I left far away on the Shamrock Shore. safely reached the other side in 320 days. We were taken as passengers by a man and led round in 6 different ways. We each of us drank our parting glass in case we might never meet more. And we drank our health to old Ireland, Paddy's green shamrock shore. Singing fairly well, sweet lines of dear, likewise to Terrytown. And twice farewell to me, comrade boys, who dwell on that sainted ground. If fortune it ever should favor me, or I do have money in store, I'll come back and I'll wed the wee lass that I left far away on the Shamrock Shore.
Before Michael leads us out, closes the evening here with us, Jeff Noble, where are you? Jeff in the back. Jeff,
read the book in the back. Do I need to be on mic?
Probably.
This is not for publication. This is not for publication, so I'm a little nervous about going on mic. Can you just cut this part out of the tape?
Sure.
That way you don't have an ugly spot. So, this is in support of the Cedar Tree Institute. Firstly, thank you, Peter White Public Library. Thank you, Cedar Tree Institute. Thank you, authors. Thank you, Paul. And mostly, thank you folks for being here tonight. John mentioned 30,000 trees. I didn't plant all of those. I'd still be out there. You folks planted those trees, either directly or through your support of our work. And we wouldn't have got a single tree in the ground without you. So pat yourselves on the back. And here comes an opportunity to do more. So why plant trees? For every 100 gallons of water a tree takes up, it transpires back into the environment 95 gallons. It uses about 5 gallons of water for every 100 for its life processes. The tree absorbs waters and minerals through its roots and the below-ground community that helps support the tree. It utilizes what water it actually needs for its needs and what minerals, and then it sequesters or puts in storage the unneeded minerals and the carbon. So trees are carbon sequestering devices. And then the water it takes or puts back out into the environment is essentially pure water. No chemicals, no junk, nothing like that. This is an effort by the entire community that supports the tree. The mycorrhizal fungi, the small organisms, all the little fiddly bits that we can't see, but who are there, just like your efforts. You may not feel they are seen, but trust me, they are felt, and they are greatly appreciated. And lastly, because of this filtration thing, I think it's still, I like you to step back here. I want to classify trees as giant filter straws in the environment. you see how much of that, land is forested. Now imagine each tree 20, 40, 60, 80 feet tall, a filter straw, taking water and minerals from the earth and releasing pure water back into the environment where it can rejoin the water cycle. Now imagine this entire forest, this entire ecosystem, this entire green world dancing gently in the wind, offering gifts back to Mother Earth. I like to think of them as fountains, taking water from the earth and taking it up into the sky. The fountains of paradise, indeed. Thank you.
I said I was going to do an Irish song, but I thought of a different one that I'd like to do about a place where we used to live. It's right near, it's the same kind of area where we live now, but this is a house that we lived in under the canopy, and so of these great trees, and really got to experience what that effect of moisture coming up, because there would be if you had a dry spell, we didn't know about it at home. There were still mushrooms coming up because those trees were up, just keeping that whole area vibrant and alive. As compared to people who are having these brown lawns problems or whatever, unless they're watering a lot. Anyway, so here's a song about that place. Last night I thanked the Lord, 'cause when I got out of work, all my stuff was still in the car. It started up when I turned the key. I drove home to my beautiful babies and my dear sleeping wife. Opened up her eyes and said to me, she said, welcome home, baby. Oh, it's been so long. She said, welcome home, lover, won't you sing to me a lullaby song? She said her mother had called and was good. Oh, could you bring in some wood? A couple few more beers in the door of the fridge. I got a fine light, and the moon is shining bright on this maple ridge. We got syrup in the springtime, when the cold wind blows. We got neighbors with children and sounds from fuzzy warm dogs, and a story to steal the time away. When we get all sleepy-eyed, we say, well, we really got to go. We got a long walk through the snow back to our chalet. And our chalet says, welcome home, people. Take off your boots and come inside. She says, welcome home, children. These sheets may be cold, but Lord knows they're dry. We make a fire and some tea. Don't forget to brush your teeth. Put the kids in bed and sit and play some cribbage. Outside, the trees are snapping in the cold, and the moon has got a hold on this maple ridge. And I love it here, died by the falling of the great-grandmother pines. And I'm struck with fear by the mining man of Money Town who tell us a few $1 billion is worth more than a land divine. If I ever get exhausted, put me in your car and take me back there, out to where a trout springs from a pool. Any old crow wants to know what you're trying to do down there. I want to feel the bark in the pipe. I want to see in the dark of the night. I want to walk in an unknown trail across an old log bridge. May the powers that be always